Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the season premiere of Frontline Access. Tonight, we've got a wonderful guest straight from Israel, Neve Goffman. Neve, three-time combat champion of Krav Maga, as well as, even more special, he served in Unit 217 of the IDF, the Duvdevan unit, so he's basically the original Doron from Fada. So please, without further ado, let's play a special video and then bring in Neve.
Ever since I was little, I've heard stories about the army, about basic training, exercises, and dangerous operations. People always told me that I had something that the others don't. I couldn't have even begun to imagine the things I do today. When I got my preference list as a senior in high school, I couldn't decide for a few days. In the end, I marked Duvdevan at the top of the list. A few months later, I found myself in the trial stages for the paratroop brigade. In the boiling heat of the summer, with many others running in the sun, crawling, giving it all we have, everything to be the best. Back then, I had no idea what was waiting for me. I enlisted, and they sent me to the trial track for the special units. If the first track seemed difficult, this was a true nightmare. For a few days, I couldn't tell the difference between night and day. It was one of the most difficult, most tiring experiences that I've ever gone through. When everyone ran, I ran. When everyone crawled, I crawled. And when everyone slept, I just kept on running.
בנימין מורס, התקבל. אחיה שץ, לא התקבל.
Eventually, I found myself standing with the rest of the troopers at the last roll call.
ירון מזרחי, לא התקבל. רועי קסטיאל,
When they told me I passed,
התקבל.
I couldn't help but smile. It took a year and 4 months. They trained us to be the best of the best. Aggressive but calm. Calculating yet spontaneous. React quickly, give it your best. Know the enemy and survive in impossible situations. After basic and advanced training, we few remained, the elite. We specialized in camouflage, in anti-terror warfare, studying lifestyles and Arab tradition. Here we learned that Duvdevan is a family, and we were a single generation out of many who were raised here. And here I am today, my first operation, more excited than ever. They always told me, and I always knew there was something about me. Duvdevan saw that too. And you wouldn't even recognize me if I passed you on the street. Because this mission, like the others my unit and I execute, will never be heard of.
ולידיעה נוספת, קרב יריות בין כנופיות בבית קפה בג'נין, נעדר אזרח פלסטיני פעיל בכיר בחמאס. צה"ל הכניס עוצר בשטחים, יריות נרחבות מתבצעות בשטחי יהודה ושומרון על ידי כוחות הביטחון. צה"ל ניסה
Wow. So just tell me before we start, will my computer self-destruct after watching that video? Can you hear me, Niamh?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry.
Okay, great. So that was incredible. So before we even get into your combat experience as Krav Maga champion, tell us about the Duvdevan unit. Tell us about the training. How accurate is that video?
Well, it's pretty accurate. The Duvdevan Foundation, first of all, thank you for the Duvdevan Foundation and the JCC and Maccabi Canada for having me. So the video is pretty accurate. It's basically show a little bit how the unit do their training from the basic train all the way up to the when you're a soldier. So the video is pretty correct, and of course the reality is even more.
So you probably can't tell us much, but are there any stories you can tell us from your time in the unit?
For sure. So first of all, I will explain a little bit about the unit, and then of course I will give you some stories from my service. Today it's way easier to describe what is the van or what is that type of unit, because I think most of the people already watch the show Fada. So it's probably about the same, not exactly the same unit, but it's based on unit like Duvdevan. So Unit 217, also of course named Duvdevan, is a Special Forces unit in the IDF. Also known as Mistarvim, like what you see in Farah. Mistarvim is mean undercover. They basically, during the ops, costume and wear Arab clothes, talk like Arab, basically in disguise in the Arab city. The unit specialized in undercover operation with focus on urban warfare. So basically the villages, the cities in the West Bank. The van operates mainly in the West Bank, not only, but mainly. The main operation is arresting the terrorist. Of course, we have other operation that we are also doing. The unit also known for her versatility, creativity, flexible mission. It can also operate in more than one location simultaneously, meaning 3 team, 5 team can operate it in 5 different places in the West Bank, and it's still synchronized and everything usually work pretty well. The one mission are laser focused with a high profile mission. Unlike other units in the army, the Devan is also a volunteer unit, so you need to volunteer that and not forced to go to that unit. That's a little bit about the Devan. A little bit about my personal story. I drafted to the army in November 2009. After a long recruitment process, including many mental and physical tests, I was accepted to do the Devan training course. The course usually lasted, it's approximately about 16 months, and was designed to make the soldier, to take them to their limits physically, mentally, in all sorts of ways that you can't even imagine that. Our training, of course, included shooting, physical and mental fitness, navigation, and of course, a lot of Krav Maga, as we see a little bit in the story. 2 stories that I want to share you because I think it's important. First of all, the world media, as you probably know, not always portrayed Israel and the IDF in a good light. So I will share one story about that and one a little bit more like a funny story that I also want to add. Let's start with the funny one. I think it's a funny one. In the army, of course, everything is about time. Time always you have from the morning till the evening, your own schedule. And in the Devan, you have a rule, a 7-minute rule. And basically it means that no matter where you are, what you're doing, even if you're in the shower, in the toilet, sleeping, running, never mind what you're gonna do, when you have the siren, you have 7 minutes to be ready for operation. Basically, you need to be with full gear. You and your team, of course, need to be already outside the unit gate. Meaning that when you hear the siren, think about it, 7 minutes. No matter where you are, if you're sleeping, you need to get dressed, take all your gear, not only yourself gear, also all your teammates, and you need to be ready for operation. Sometimes you don't even know where you're driving. You just start driving, and in the middle of the way, you get already order and what to do and where. Of course, sometimes you have more time to prepare. Sometimes it can be days, sometimes it can be weeks, but most of the time, the van operates on short time reaction. So everything is fast, quick, so you need to be really sharp. And that in that 7-minute rule, it's a test. They test it all the time, even during regular time. And of course, if a team not ready in 7 minutes, of course, as the army, they get punished. But after a while, of course, every team know what to do in 7 minutes. And as you probably know, as I said before, the world media not usually portrayed the IDF, and I think in a good light. And I think that story is a good thing for you guys, that if you have, I don't know, any argue or something with other people that think bad about Israel or the IDF. So I think it's a very important story that I want to share with you. So I'm going to talk about one of the missions, never mind where, when it happened. basically, in one of the missions, we had to arrest a woman. That woman was responsible for distributing the money for the Hamas terrorist groups in the West Bank. Now, there were several issues with that operation because, first of all, she was a woman. And as you know, if not, yes, in the Arab world society, men cannot touch a woman if she is not from his family, meaning that's a very big law and like disrespect for the women in the Arab society. And second of all, she was from a very large and well-respected family in the West Bank. And any wrong move, any mistake that we're going to do could really brought the area to a boiling point. And as already the West Bank, Israel area anyway, it's always second away from being more danger and everything. So we need to really work through that. It was a holy time in the Arab world. I mean, it was a holiday, and as you probably know, it's even more explosive time when it's a holiday. So it's even make it more harder for the operation to happen. Of course, in the unit, in special forces, usually, of course, you have time. The commander give also to the lowest soldier in the operation, even give them the time to talk and think. But anyway, in the end of the day, what they decided, of course, we allow to talk and share our opinion and everything. But in the end of the day, it's army, and when the commander decided what to do, you go with that. In the end of the day, they decided to bring with us, with the force that go to that operation, 2 female soldiers. Nothing wrong about those. We have amazing women soldier in the army, combat soldier, of course. Because we had short time to that operation, short window, we didn't have the time to bring women combat soldier. We actually brought 2 girls from the unit that there was not combat to make the arrest. So basically, we get in, clear the house, and they was the one that hold the woman and arrest her and take her out. So, and that's even put more pressure on the operation because, as you know, they never used weapon before. You put them in the first time in their life in the West Bank. That's not a friendly environment in the middle of the night. Very difficult scenario and situation, and even for combat soldier. So
I was going to say that does not sound easy for 2 rookies with no experience, no training to be thrust into this situation.
For sure, and that's why it's even put more pressure on the team that was there in the field to not only cover, of course, ourselves, but now we have 2 more people that even don't know what to do if something really bad happened. So it's 2 more people that you need to take care of. Of course, we have amazing girl soldiers, but they just specifically was not one of them. But anyway, the operation went really good. It went smooth mostly, and everything was okay. And what I want to decide and to emphasize here is how the IDF treated the women in the Arab world, and even if we call them or they call us enemies, we still have doing that as much as we can without harming the society, the civilian society, and also to try to respect the Arab role and the Arab codes, even when they consider our enemies. So I think, again, that's a good story to share. Of course, I think we can talk about more if you have more questions about that story specifically or not.
Can you take us into the decision-making process? Why did you guys decide to act at that specific time, go after that target then and there?
Well, sometimes you don't really have that. They're not sharing everything, the whole information with, let's say, the regular soldier. Or maybe sometimes the decision make in a higher rank officers, and they bring the plan, of course, to the other soldier, and then they have the time to share their thoughts, to share their fear. Maybe, sometimes it happen when they brought operation, and after the talk with the soldier, they change it a little bit. And I think it's one of our obligation also to hear other opinion, right? Because sometimes you have a conception that this always work good, and you can't do that. The enemy, of course, the Palestinians, the terrorist, is also smart. They also change all the time and get smarter and smarter, and we also need to be one step ahead or even more before them. So again, more opinion is great, but in the end of the day, no matter what, even if I think it's not the right way, it doesn't anymore matter when the commander said, that's what we're going to do. So that's what we're going to do. Like, they have time to talk and share the opinion. and there is time to action.
Interesting. So going back to that video, you mentioned that the training for this, and I'm going to get into, of course, your combat training later on. It was so intense, the mental, the physical. Take us through what your basic training was like and how you went from just a soldier at 18 years old to the Duvdevan unit.
Well, it's a big transition. From high school, a few months after, or some people, it's even a month after they finish high school, they already drafted to the army. Of course, one of the major rules, as I said, with the golden rule, and one of the major one is the 7-minute rule. And that starts from the basic train all the way until you finish the army. And, no lack of sleep, a lot of physical and mental. It's more mental because anyway, in the end of the day, everybody, even if you're in the best shape in your life or in the world, it doesn't really matter. In the end of the day, everybody gets to a breaking point. And the question is what you do when you're getting to that point. And that's also the mental part come to play. And always, fitness, stamina, it's always something that you can improve. Mental, it's more harder. So it's like sometimes you have it or not. So that's why also during the test before, they don't really care about if you run the fastest from everyone. Of course, it could, but in the end of the day, after a few hours that you just sprint back and forth, even if you're in the best shape in the world, you will get tired. And then what you do? You quit or keep going, because this is something that usually you can't teach, like to keep going. And this is something that we really focus on because, again, fitness, you can always improve. And in the end of the day, everybody going to be in a good fitness. They will make sure of it. But the mental thing, it's something else.
Now, we're living in a very connected world, especially in Israel. Everyone's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. How hard is it for young soldiers to keep these missions, their army experience, especially in Duvdevan, a secret? Some of these stories, I would think they just want to share, and they want to share with the world.
Yes, but I think we need to be really careful about sharing those stories. Again, of course, you don't need to say dates, places, and all of that. But I think trying to share as well with my story, I didn't want to go into specific, but I think it's good to show the world that we are actually trying to not harm, not related to a civilian, that they are not related to the situation, they're not terrorists, and they're nothing between the terrorists. So we do the separation, and we try to respect the people there as much as we can, but of course not compromise of our own safety and security on the process. By the way, from my point of view, I think that Fauda is actually, it's a good show, it's amazing, but I don't think it's actually something that I will allow it to do because, it's my opinion, of course. I'm not talking about any other opinion of my friend or the unit, but I think, it's showing a lot. And even if it's something that we're not doing anymore, it's still...
Is it accurate?
Well, it's based on true stories and real operation that happened. And some of it, they mix it up a little bit, right? But it's based on true story. And as like me and you see it, other people can see it as well. But again, it's not something that they probably also knew before, right? And with today's world, right, the media and the camera and phone, it's getting even harder and harder to operate because everything is on camera all the time.
Yeah.
10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe you have 1-2 camera on the street, who knows, right? But today, it's way harder to operate when you have in every single corner, you have a camera, everyone can just pull up his phone and, it's way harder today than before, I think.
Yeah. I'm going to get into the first ever political question on Frontline Access, just because you mentioned how Israel is perceived in the Arab world, especially in the West Bank. What is the reception recently of Israel's peace with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and the other countries that are going to hopefully follow suit? What are people talking about there now?
Israel?
In Israel, yeah.
Well, there is a lot of opinion and mixed opinion. I think, again, personally, I'm speaking only about my opinion. Every peace treaty that we have, it's great. No matter with which country, of course, if it's with the Arab world, it's even better. And I think it is a first step. It's a good step toward maybe other countries, as I said, going to join. I don't think, definitely it's good. Even if it's not they're not neighbor countries, with our borders, let's say. But I think still, any peace that you're gonna get or normalize the relationship, never mind you call it peace, you call it normalize, it's good, it's positive, of course. We're better to have peace than war. That's 100%.
That's a perfect answer. So we actually, before I segue into the next topic, we have our first question from YouTube. It's from Jamie Rebner. Can you share details of situations where Krav Maga or combat helped save your life or the lives of your crew members?
I will just talk in general, of course. Again, Krav Maga in the unit is something that it's a lot of focus on during the basic training, during the more advanced training, and even when you finish the course, the 16-month course, you're still doing, of course, shooting in Krav Maga. And yes, definitely there is scenarios, there is times that you need to use force to restrain terrorist or family member that you know that you're trying to do the arrest as much as peaceful as you can. But again, they use force, and of course you don't want to use your weapon. So if you realize the situation is better to use your own force instead of force shooting, because the last case scenario is to shoot. If we can handle it with hitting with the weapon or with hands or legs, never mind what, we will prepare to do that, of course, because again, when it's shooting, it's never good for both sides. So if we can handle it with our own training with the Krav Maga, or never mind which training you have, it's definitely better to neutralize the threat without shooting him, 100%.
So I know, and I'm sure one of the things you learned about in the unit, situational awareness. And while being in Canada is much different than being in Israel, we have different concerns, different aspects of our lives to deal with. What are some tips and advice you can share with just everybody watching, how to be more situationally aware, whether it's a dark alley or in a restaurant? What can you share with us?
So first of all, before we talk about situational awareness, it's the way to trying to assist and to see if something will happen, and you're trying to think before it's happening, right? So you want to prevent that. So and then what measure you take to prevent those attacks and robbery, murder, never mind what. First of all, you need to know that there is like 4 scenarios basically in your life: when you're calm, when like peaceful at home, when you're in the street but nothing really happens, so you're just walk regularly but pay attention. When you start really feel that something is off, right? So you start scanning more, you start looking about suspicious people, but it's still not a fight. You just get your alarm raised up more. And of course, the 4th step is when it's already a struggle, a fight, never mind what. That's the first scenario. And we can't be always all right? Because otherwise we're gonna live in paranoia every second of our life. So you can't look back every second in your life. So we're trying to minimize that situation by preventing those not good places to be as much as you can. Of course, sometimes you have to be in those places. And then you're trying to be more alert with those situations. Of course, you need to know yourself. So first of all, like, I'm Israeli, right? Jew Israeli that lives in Canada. I have different threats if I was a Canadian Jew, or maybe just a Christian Canadian, or just a Canadian, right? So everyone depend on your nationality, background, never mind. I don't believe that's what happened. I don't think it's good in the world, but that's the reality. There is different threat from different type of people. So you need to know who you are, with who you're going with, right? Like with your friends, they have something that they're in danger. So again, you need to know those things. Let's talk a little bit about the scenario. So when I'm talking about scenario, let's say if we can go to the picture with the subway, let's say the subway or the bus. I think we have that, Jared. Can you show that? Can you scroll? Great. So when I'm going to that subway, I will think to sit in the parallel, okay? Not in front, like my head, not in the driveway, and not in the back. Why in the parallel? Because first of all, my back is against the wall. So first, nobody can surprise me from behind. That's the most important thing, because if it's behind me, I can see. What I cannot see, I cannot defend. So I will sit against the wall, of course, as much as I can. If I can, sit close to the door, okay, to the exit door. Why not to sit with the head to the drive on the back? Basically, you have less vision, right? You have only 180 front or 180 back. When you sit parallel, you have 180 to basically everything, and in your back you have the wall. So basically you have better coverage, let's say. And of course you need to be more alert. I cannot see and being always on guard. It's crazy. But first of all, the first tip I actually recommend, when you're walking outside, never mind, a lot of people, they're taking their phone with the headphones and they cannot really pay attention to anything. And it doesn't matter if you're a Israeli MMA champion or Krav Maga expert. If you're with your headphone and your phone and you look down, someone from behind or even from the front can just easily do everything you want and you don't even pay attention to that. So first of all, if you can, trying to, when you walk outside, walk without the headphone or without the phone. That will increase your visibility and of course your alert. Dark alleys. If you don't have to go in dark alleys, don't go there, right? Like if you have a way that is a little bit longer, but it's more light, it's in the main street, it's always better. If you have to go in dark alleys, put your phone in the pocket, or even sometimes even call, hey, it's a friend or family, never mind, family member, hey, I'm walking home, blah, 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 just let you know, right? All those things increasing your sense of security, and of course, if something really happened, people know where you are. Parking lot as well. Most of the places, most of the people that attack you will attack you in places that no crowd people, right? Like they want to do it in a dark alley, parking lot, places like that. How to recognize someone that may be going to be a threat? So there is no one thing specific that I can say. It's more like your gut feeling. But basically, if you have a gut feeling that something is wrong, don't ignore it. Again, if the person that you see start really sweating and he's sweating, he's clenched fist with his fist closed and maybe go forward and backward. He's trying to scan the area, and when you take a look on him, you will look down. So there's a lot of like body language that you can see that the person is stressed, and again, but maybe he's just stressed, or maybe he just finished a run and he just sweat, right? You never really know for sure. But when you feel something is wrong, trust your gut and be more alert. So if you're with the phone, put your phone down, a little bit, be more focused to your surrounding, to your area. And there is a lot of way and all of the example, but of course, in every scenario, just think ahead a little bit before. If you have a dangerous area that you think is dangerous, like those area, dark alley, parking lot, just be more alert. I think, and of course, we can talk about it more and more, but that's again small tips that I can give you.
I feel like we can talk about this for hours, and these tips are invaluable. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit about that. But I want to get more into Niv, the person you are. For everyone watching, you're joining us now live from Israel. It's almost 2 a.m., I believe. So thank you for staying up with us. But now you're also living in Toronto when you're not visiting Israel. But now that you're home, you're back at Kibbutz Kfar Sold. Tell us how you went from this kibbutz to becoming a 3-time combat champion, as well as a 3-time second place Israeli combat runner-up.
So first of all, I don't know if people, some yes, some no, know what is a kibbutz. So a kibbutz is a collective community that was traditionally based on agriculture, and the first kibbutz was established in Israel in 1909. I grew up all my life in a kibbutz, as you said, called Kfar Sold. It's in the Upper Galilee, in the north part of Israel. Probably 95 or 99% of the people that watching that don't even know where is it. So basically, it's really like a shithole, but like a very nice one, beautiful, with the rivers and everything, and green farm area. It's about 10 minutes drive from the border between Israel, Syria, and Lebanon. And Jared, if you can scroll up on the maps, I think that will give us a better perspective about where is Kfar Sold. Because again, even if you ask people in Israel, most of them will not even know where is on the map. So yeah, let's move on for the smaller version to zoom in. Yeah, so basically, as you see here on the scroll in the circle, you have Kfar Sold, Snir, it's another kibbutz. Hermon Mountain is in the top, in the right side. Let's move on. As you see, that's really on the top of the north. And a funny fact that I always like to share about the area that I'm living. Of course, I think it's the most beautiful area on all of Israel. that is actually closer. Like if I will drive, if the border was open and was peace and everything was great, if the border was open from Kfar Sol to Damascus, the capital of Syria, it's going to take me like an hour and a half driving. Depend on the driver, of course. If you're like Israeli driver, it's maybe a little bit less. So hour and a half, it's not that long. And to Jerusalem, actually, to our capital, it's going to take me about 2.5, 3 hours sometimes. It depends, of course, traffic. So Jared, if you can show the other one. Yeah. So basically, never mind, it's like about 2.5 hours to go to Jerusalem. Actually, to go to the capital of Syria is even closer for me than go to Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. So it's close, right? Like the border is right over there. I can also share like a small story about the Second Lebanon War. I was 16, and it's surreal, but like in the war, we had a base above our kibbutz, and we literally watching rockets like flying above our heads from the army, from the Israeli army, and also from Hezbollah. So it's like one time it's him there, one time it's us, and we literally sat on a porch and watched that. Of course, stupid 16, right? That why you're not in the shelter. But that's because we are so close to the border. Most of the rockets always pass that. So yeah.
What's going through your mind as a 16-year-old? I'm sure there are younger children in the kibbutz, knowing that you have people just a few kilometers away sending rockets over your head, trying to kill you. What's going through your mind then?
Well, I think it's just getting not older, but like more not immature. How you say it? Mature. Sorry, yeah. So you're getting more mature as young age, because I think the perspective of the area, you just learn to be more, more alert to this danger close to the border. But again, generally it's peaceful, right? Like sometimes it really can be bad in times, but I think it's give also when you're living on the borders, it give you more meaning of why I'm here or what I'm doing there. And again, in all of Israel, there is like different type of percentage of high school where they go to combat or never mind. In our high school, I think like 95% maybe was going to the army. Like again, if you're health issue, of course, and all of that. So I'm not expected, but there is no people that not going to the army. That's like in my time it was like no one will do that. Like, and most of the people that go to the army go to combat unit because it's just you're really defending your home because you're literally on the border.
Literally defending it, yeah.
Yeah, because you always have when you're young, even sometimes the soldier go to the kibbutz, come to the kibbutz, you see them, they going to your school, like from a really young age, you really like know them or get connected with them. So you just keep the thing going, right? You know that it's your time, like your commitment to the country, right? So everybody do it, you will do it as well.
So I hate to cut you off. We're running short on time. I can't believe it's been 40 minutes already, but let's get back into your journey to a Krav Maga combat champion.
Yeah, so I will just start in how I get to there. So sorry, we'll do it a little bit quicker. When I was living in a small community like the kibbutz, quickly I was known as the troublemaker in the kibbutz. I was always fighting. The school was not great. I always was outside playing soccer, never listened, really troublemaker. In age of 9, basically, I diagnosed with ADHD. And as you know, it's hard to focus and, you're very energetic and all of that. And my parents enrolled me with martial arts class because in Israel, it's a big thing. Like, I don't think there are a lot of kids that are not going in some point of their life to a martial arts, never mind which one, class. So that's how I start because my parents want to give me something to burn my energy, get more, learn to respect, behave well, self-confidence, and my self-confidence will increase. And, all of those that martial arts really giving to the kids. I started when I was 11 to training in Israeli combat. Today it's called MMA, that's the older version. And after 4 months, I was participating in my first championship and I won. I was, as I said before, 3-time national champion and 3-time second place. By the way, it's Israeli combat champion, not a Krav Maga champion, because as you know, in Krav Maga, there is no rules. So if we had a some tournament, nobody will survive it for the next one. Yeah, basically everyone will be injured, so it's a little bit different. So it's Israeli combat champion, and that's how I start. I'm teaching, and from the club I teach when I was 16. I start also to teach in the gym, give me more respect and more responsibility, right? So and also get me out of the shell more, and I was like a more close person, and now I'll be able to more talk, right, more communicate. So it's really changing my life, the martial arts, the Krav Maga. Of course, the school was better after that, the service in the unit. Those things I don't think I will able to achieve if I was not enrolled from a young age in martial arts classes.
So we've got a couple of questions that came in, but just on Krav Maga combat in general, it began in Israel. It is famous as the Israeli combat technique. How did it become an international phenomenon? Everyone now knows Krav Maga. It's mentioned in Hollywood. It's mentioned everywhere. It's one of the key parts of UFC MMA. So how did it grow to be such a phenomenon?
Well, first of all, Krav Maga is not a typical martial arts. Basically, it's more like a self-defense. And the main differences between self-defense program, never mind if it's a Krav Maga Stema, like the Russian sort, it's focused on real-life scenario, and all the other martial arts, like the traditional martial arts, let's call it, they are great. Nothing wrong about them. The problem with them, sometimes you're still practicing what you did 2,000 years ago, you're still doing the same today, but the scenarios are changing. Krav Maga is always developed, always getting new stuff. And of course, in martial arts, the traditional one today, the main thing that is different, there is rule, there are sports. In sports, you have rule. In Krav Maga, the only rule that you have is basically survive. Okay, you're gonna do everything you need to survive the situation. Use your hands, your legs, hit the groin, the eyes, never mind what. You're gonna do everything to survive this scenario. And again, it's a living system. It's always keep updating. Unfortunately, because of the scenarios in Israel, we always need to update and upgrade. So yeah, and it's starting with Imi Lichtenfeld, right? He was a Hungarian Jew he was a Hungarian Jew, and how it started, basically, Imi was, I will do it in a really short. He was a boxer and wrestler in Czechoslovakia, and he started to defend on the Jewish quarter in the mid and late 30s, before the Second World War. He helped to defend on the Jewish quarter there, and with, of course, not only by himself, but with other boxer and wrestler, and that's how it was the really foundation of the Krav Maga started over there in Europe. And of course, when Imi came to Israel, after he served in the British military in the Second World War, he started with other Israeli experts. It's called the first name of Krav Maga. Krav mean fight, Maga mean contact, so Maga, and it's called Kapap, Krav Panim El Panim, or face-to-face fight. That's how was the original name in Krav Maga, and Imi was the founder, but of course with other masters in boxing, karate, judo, other Israeli, they really started to integrate that system, and they do it in the army. Imi was also the chief instructor in the army for like 15 years or 20 years, if I remember correctly, and that's even more getting it more to the army, more to the unit, and after he finished his service, he exported to the world, and of course, and you see it's very efficient, right? We want to keep it simple as you can and the most natural you can, because again, in the stressful situation, you will not remember your name probably. So definitely you will not remember too much complicated defenses and too many things. So one of the foundation and the point in Krav Maga is to keep it the most natural way, right? And the most efficient movement, that's the best and the right movement. That's one of the sentences that Imi said about what he believed. And maximum movement against maximum attack. That was Eli Avikazer, that's Imi, most accomplished student that came after Imi. That's what he said. So basically, if you have one defend that can be good for more than one attack, that's better than one defend to one attack, because then you need to just remember too many. And even if that defend is not that sexy or look great, but it's more efficient. So again, in a stressful situation, you prefer one defend that work better for more type of defenses, and then you need to type of taxer, and then you need to remember less.
So you've described Krav Maga. You've told us all about it. In a moment, I'm actually going to ask you to give us a demonstration, show us what it's all about. But before we get to that, Jordan has a great question from YouTube. He wants to know, how can a person develop mental toughness regarding self-defense?
Well, there is a lot of way to start doing that. There is a lot of drill that, of course, you can email me after or give me a call if they can. Daniel, if you can put my email there after, or my phone number when I will be back in Toronto in Thursday, you can actually contact me and ask me, and I can explain a little bit more. But it's basically just start doing workouts that is really hard for you, right? Because everyone has his breaking point. And when you reach that breaking point, never mind if you do push-ups, or even if you just go into a push-up position and just stay. Don't do anything. In the beginning, of course, it will be easy, like the first minute, 2, 5 minutes. What about after 10 minutes and 15 minutes, if you can, or whatever, right? Then it's getting really hard. And so, then you're working every time, you're trying to beat your record. So, of course, in the beginning, maybe you will be 5 minutes. But after you practice and get yourself stronger mentally and physically, always getting a little bit better. So after that, maybe it will be 10 minutes, 15, right? So there is so many drills that you can do that are very simple. And let's say the push-up position, it's one of them that it's so simple, you can do it everywhere and just stay. Of course, you need to talk to yourself, right? Like you need to work with your mind and tell yourself, keep going, right? There is a lot of ways, but of course, to be strong mentally, you also need to be strong physically. That's also helping, again, in the beginning of the workout. But in the end, it's all here in your mind.
That's awesome. So now, Niv, I know your brother's in the room around you somewhere. If he can be so kind, show us how you would defend yourself from attack. Show us some Krav Maga.
So I will do some not too crazy, more simple move for us to defend. So give me 1 second, guys. I will call my brother Ron. He's stay up for us all night. 1. Give him 1 second. He will come. 1.
So while Niv is getting his brother, you can find him on Instagram at Niv Goffman, NIV Goffman, or on his Facebook page, Niv Goffman Martial Arts. He's based in Toronto, and he is providing Krav Maga lessons to the world. So please feel free to reach out to Niv.
Yeah, so basically, guys, Daniel, they can see me well enough from here?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start with something that's really, really simple. It's called wrist grab, how to release from a wrist grab. And again, I will not talk about everything and what is the perspective because we don't have enough time to explain here everything. So basically when someone, even the most real one, the first one, that you're gonna grab me same side to the same side, I'm not talking about why you're grabbing me now and everything. I have 2 simple rules that will help you to release basically from almost every wrist grab that you're gonna have. And remember, the fastest way to release from any wrist grab is basically hitting the other person in the face or in the groin. And before I wanna start, 1 second, what I want to talk in Krav Maga, the most important thing is to know the vulnerable point in the human body. So if you have in your upper body, right, your head, what you have, eyes, nose, throat, chin, right, all of those areas are vulnerable. In the lower body, I will go to the groin, I will go to the knee, or even I can step on the toes, right? All of those are a vulnerable point in the human body, and in Krav Maga, we will always we're trying to aim them, because as you see, Ron is a big and strong guy, probably better, stronger than me. So even if I will hit him in the chest, probably nothing will happen to him. So I need to go smarter, always going against the thumb. That's the first rule in wrist grabs. So it will be easier for me to go that way, right, and not the other way, because the other way, it's way harder for me to release. So when I will turn my wrist a little bit, and I will take it to my other side, to my chest, and that's the second rule. If you're grabbing my right hand, I will go to the left side. If you will grab the left side, I will go to the right, and I will do just slower and to my chest. Don't be afraid to go to your chest, it's a big muscle. Don't go high too much, otherwise it will hit your face, and that's definitely you don't want. You will grab me with 2 hands, same principle. Because you're grabbing me, take a look over here, yeah, 2 hands, and now it's way stronger. Even if I were trying to pull to the side, up, down, never mind, that's gonna be a problem. He's way stronger than me. Now as you see, his thumbs is up. So as the principal say, I will try to go up, but now with one hand, I don't have a chance. What I need to do, using more leverage, I'm gonna close my fist as strong as I can. Let's go closer on, just so they can see. I'm gonna close my fist up this way. Close as I can, not this way, because when I will pull up, I will maybe break my own wrist. So maybe now, taking my free hand in between his hands, grabbing, as you see, I'm grabbing, and then I will pull to the left side as well. Of course, you can tell me, Niv, but yes, you're strong as well. What if I need a smaller person? Great, if I'm a smaller person than him, I will use more leverage. How am I gonna do it? Basically, I will do the same. I will grab the same way, and then I will just step backward. At the same time that I'm doing that, I will grab, right? I will just step, open up my body, then I will use even more force. If he will come forward, that's okay. If not, not. Now, I have a question. Again, sometimes it can be really strong guy, and even me, maybe, well, you know what, I try, I can't. What should I do? If I see it's not a friend, because sometimes it can be like, you know, maybe Ron and me, it was pouring party, right? He was drinking too much, and he really grabbed me strong. Now, if I will hit his face and hit his groin, we're probably not gonna be friends anymore. So I need to see and assist if it's a threat or not. So if it's a threat, if it's someone that really wants to attack me, I don't know the guy, and trying to release in a more peaceful way, and he don't release, and he don't release me, yes, go to his eyes, go to his nose, go to his groin, strong as you can, fast as you can. Another thing that, Daniel, we still have another minute? I can show another move?
Yeah, show one more move. Yeah, this is fascinating.
Let's do a scenario from behind, like a bear hug. Okay, what is the goal in bear hug? When someone grabbing you like that, that's bear hug. Basically, we're trying to lift me up and take me down to the ground, or kidnap scenario, right? Take me to a different room, to a car, yeah, basically everything you want. And of course, he will surprise me. He will not just pull and just hold me, maybe he will hold, but someone else in front of me will start hitting me. So I need to release myself really quick. From here, I will not wait. There is few ways to do it. The fastest way, basically, I will just immediately go and grab, basically lower my weight a little bit just to get myself more balanced. Grabbing, headbutt. If I can, depend on where is the head located, but I don't really care. I will just throw my head in the back. If I hit his nose, amazing. If I didn't hit anything, that's still fine. I'm going down, twist my hips, and then I will show in a different, 1 second, in a different angle, hit the groin. 1 second, I will lower the camera a little bit that you can see that again. So he's grabbing me, I'm lowering my body a little bit, holding his hand because I want him close to me. I'm doing a headbutt. From here, I will turn. Never mind which side I'm turning, it depends on you. I usually turn to my right, to my left side, because then my right will be free. And then I will just hit the groin 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, never mind, until he will release. That's basically it. Again, vulnerable area, you don't need to look sexy, it's not need to look good, you just need to be efficient. Strong as you can, fast as you can, to the vulnerable point. If there is any other question, of course, Daniel, if you want to see other scenario, if we have time for it, all yours.
No, I think that's good. I mean, those situations are great. Thanks, Ron. Thanks for staying up for us. Toda rabba.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Ron.
Oh, it's you know, there's simple techniques that you just showed, but they're effective. I mean, you would think that it's more complicated than that, but really it's not.
No, basically, again, we're trying to do it as simple as you can, going to the vulnerable area. And again, there is a lot of Krav Maga technique, there is a lot of Krav Maga school, but in the end, the principle should be the same. The more natural way, or the more better way, right, is better, because again, in stressful situation, you don't really have a lot of time to, which defend I need to do? No, boom, groin, right? Like it's way easier, it's way faster when you do that. And again, it's not need to be perfect, but you just need to be aggressive as much as you can. And if shouting and screaming, that's helping, that's great as well. Sometimes it doesn't need to happen, but just be more aware, because right now, right, Ron, I knew that he grabbing me, but probably if I will not be aware, just walking on the street with my headphones, right, my phone playing, he will easily pick me up and lift me in the air and take me to the ground. But if I will be just more aware, right, again, situational awareness, sometimes it's even more important than actually to know Krav Maga. Because even if he will walk behind me and I will look back from time to time and I will see him suspicious person, right? I will be already more more alert to that situation, and maybe I will see a bunch of people and I will go with them, right? He will not attack few people. He will attack one person that usually will be weaker than him, right?
Are the principles the same for males and females? That's the techniques you showed us?
100%. Well, again, female don't have a groin, but it's still painful, that area as well for them. But again, eyes, nose, chin, ears, throat, right? Like knees, toes, right? All of those areas, except the groin, basically it's the same body part. And they will be efficient anyway, anywhere. For men, of course, it will be the groin that will be probably the most efficient one. If not, again, eyes, easily, right? Those are areas that you easily can get, even if he's way taller than you, right? So it will be closer to the groin or other area. If he's shorter, so again, it's not, never mind if he's higher or lower than you.
That's thank you so much for sharing that, Neve. So we have one interesting question that just came in from YouTube. It's from Yuri. Yuri wants to know, why is Krav incompatible with kata?
Why is incompatible? Again, Krav Maga didn't invent a lot of. I hope I will answer the question. I don't really know if I correctly understand, but Krav Maga didn't invent a lot of stuff. Basically, they took all the good stuff from Muay Thai or from BJJ, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Judo, or even karate. Never mind which martial arts. They took the punches and the kicks, right, from the kickbox or karate. They combined it. They took the judo, the takedowns, the groundwork from BJJ, from Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and added. What Krav Maga is more adding, new thing, is more defenses with weapons, right? Like the knife, the gun, the stick, the hatchet, like all those type. Kata is really different. Actually, I never did karate, and I think, again, as much as you do martial arts, never mind what type of martial arts, I think it's better. First of all, it's better than not. I don't know, for like practicing the air sometimes, again, it's more about the focus, if I know correctly, and be more focus and composure. It's also demonstrated like a fight, but in Krav Maga it's different. You're really going, and someone really attacking you, right? It's different. And if you, of course, if you have full gear, you go a little bit all the way with that.
So we've got 1 minute left, Neve. So any final words, any final thoughts, something that you didn't share that you want to share with us?
I don't know. First of all, I just want to say thank you very much for having me. And of course, if more questions, feel free to contact me. If you can, Daniel, if you can leave after that the email or the phone number, yep. Facebook, Instagram, never mind what. Yes, I'm in Toronto. I'm living in Toronto, and I'm teaching Krav Maga there. So feel free to stop by, come to a class, never mind. And of course, any question that you have, I'm here for you guys.
Neve can be found on Instagram at Neve Goffman, and on his Facebook page, Neve Goffman Martial Arts. So thank you so much, Toda Rabah, for staying up all night and joining us for the season premiere of Frontline Access. To all our viewers, this Sunday is our first ever Sunday special. We're featuring David Friedman, the international scout for the Cincinnati Reds. He's the only Major League Baseball scout to be based in Israel. The playoffs just started today, so join us on Sunday so you can hear from the scout himself about his Cincinnati Reds and the state of baseball in the rest of the world. So thank you again for tuning in. Join us in 2 weeks from now for Dr. Saul Miller, the sports psychologist to the stars.